fun.
But let's just cover off one little piece. So the whole transient dyno thing, over to the States. Not happening in Australia. Taking too long to get the parts. Welcome to the Valve Bounce, and today we're talking about Adelaide 500 review demo.
Hi, hey Steve.
How are you?
Busy weekend. Had a lot happening with Formula One and the V8s having their final round. But yeah, let's crack on with the Adelaide review.
Yeah, definitely the Adelaide review. And first and foremost, congratulations to Brodie Kostecki and Erebus.
Yeah, nicely done.
Taking out the Constructors and the Drivers' Championship, which I thought was really good. I did hear Jamie have a small little crack, but retract his statement a little bit.
Did he?
Yeah, well, he was talking to, I believe it might have been the Castrol podcast guys, and he was a bit like, oh, we've been really busy with Gen 3, like extra stuff, blah, blah, but not taking away from Erebus. Yeah, mate, Crimea River, go home.
Yeah, all the money that you made from being the homologation team and creating all the parts which keep failing, like the power steering. Yeah, but I don't think I've got any sympathy for that. But yeah, well, it was great to see Betty, just absolutely overwhelmed with emotion. Someone of her caliber to kind of take the chocolates is awesome. So yeah, it was great.
I think so. The whole team, even Barry looked almost slightly emotional at one point.
He did actually.
So, that was good to see. It obviously meant a lot to them. They call themselves a privateer team. I don't know if I quite agree with that statement, but they are smaller than the rest, I guess. Yeah,
it'd be interesting to know how they actually define what a privateer is now, because in the old days it was very clear, it was very simple. Yeah. But now,
still big business.
Still big business, but still ultimately compared to the others, I guess she is. So, there you go.
Yeah, very good. And the other thing that we had was a first-time winner demo.
Oh, and hey, dominant.
Very dominant.
Just took it off from the front row and just absolutely just controlled the race. Yeah, amazing.
It really reminded me of an Ambrose drive.
Oh, yes, Ambrose, where he kind of drove. We've had others, but in the Ford camp, I think Ambrose was really the last time we had that. I mean, Scotty.
Yeah, look, Scotty he did it in a different fashion though. I feel like Ambrose always controlled his pace to the person behind, and I really felt like Matt did exactly that.
Yeah.
Just literally went, oh, you're going faster? I'll go a little bit faster. Yeah. Just so they know that they can't catch him.
Yeah, it was great. And, it was really awesome for to join that elite caliber of someone that the Groves identified, and everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of people sort of had reservations about him. He had to do that Super 2 entry to kind of get the qualifications for the Super license. Didn't have the greatest run in Super 2. Had a couple of ordinary weekends where people were probably doubting his skill level and whether or not he'd make it. But then to be a rookie, to secure a win and do it in that dominant style, I think was awesome to see and to watch.
I'm a big fan of Matt Payne. I had a chat to him at the start of the year, which I mentioned before, and it's just a really down-to-earth character. So, really, really happy for him and for the Penrite team, because they're looking really, really strong for 24.
Yes, indeed.
So, I suppose we move on to the Saturday winner, mate.
Saturday winner, the Mr. Saturday, you called him, have you?
Yeah, Mr. Saturday, because, he won the Gold Coast on Saturday.
True.
And, again, emphatically, won on Saturday at Adelaide 500.
Yeah, it was great.
Cam Waters, we should say.
Yes. And by far, he needs to be our shining light, because, goddamn, we've now got an official replacement for the best burnout person.
Oh, definitely.
Really quick side note, the Penrite guys, oh my...
Almost crashed.
Almost crashed into each other, barely in his smoke. They weren't changing gears.
To be fair to Matt Payne, I feel like Reynolds kind of cocked him up.
Reynolds has history too, because his Gold Coast was
horrible.
Yeah, he just needed to pluck more gears, mate. Just get it up, get it going.
And just didn't do it. And but you know, Matt's young, so I'm sure he'll learn how to do a burnout or two. He clearly hasn't done any illegally, so you know, he'll get there in the end.
But yeah, it was great for Waters, and you know, after you know the amount of luck or bad luck that guys had this year with a random wheel hitting him at Sandown, you know, the car catching on fire earlier in the year, I think, you know, it's a great outcome that the Tick for Team had when we kind of got the parity right, which was it was great to see.
And that, I suppose that is the other thing. 4 Ford wins to finish off the year.
Oh, they just got to build a better mousetrap.
I know.
Don't they? Isn't that what we hear all the time? That suddenly the Ford teams just don't know how to drive, don't know how to build a car, and now so when you fix parity, we start winning.
Yeah. No. And so Triple Eight, mate.
Who? I barely saw them. I mean, Feeney obviously resurrected something of the weekend for them, but man, they went missing. They had an absolute shocker.
They did. They must have run over something on the way to Adelaide, because there's definitely something gone wrong there. Issues with Feeney's car on the Thursday or the Friday with the engine, steering dilemmas for Shane all weekend again. And that probably wasn't helped by the fact that he had a rebounding Coca-Cola car collected on the
how unlucky, but you know, just one of those things. And we'll touch on, I guess, a bit of a snapshot of Gizzy's weekend a bit later on too. But yeah, like Triple Eight really, they just didn't bring it for the championship fight. There was just nothing. And yes, it was unlucky what happened on the Saturday, but yeah, there was no recovery. It was just, it felt very flat from them.
And it did feel very flat, and Larko boosting him up made it even more farcical almost, because he was like, oh, he's in the championship. Every time the camera cut to Larko, he was banging on about SVG and where he was, and I just was like, Larko, they're nowhere.
Yeah.
They're nowhere this weekend. You can see it.
Yeah, he'd been given the you're the hype man, and so he was probably just trying to deliver, because anyone else could see, blind Freddie could see that it was done and dusted.
Yeah,
so
definitely the case.
Yeah.
All right, mate.
Well, Cameron Hill, you know, probably we'll get to the Larko Luck Award later, but probably could have been the candidate or the winner for that. But oh my God, that turn 8, that was a big hit.
It was a huge hit, and it was Matt McColden's fault.
Oh. We're blaming Matty?
Yeah, Matty is full at fault for this one. Sorry, Matty.
It's always his fault at turn 8, right?
No, because they had Cameron Hill on the driver's seat, and he literally said, you haven't put it in the wall, you haven't had any incidents, it's been a stellar year, and
commentators, oh my God.
All over Red Rover. So Cam, send him a postcard of telling him what you think of him.
Maybe the bill.
And Matt Stone, send him the bill.
Yeah.
He did take responsibility, I heard on the podcast. He said it was his fault. So,
right.
So you've already got the liability there.
Yeah, no, he's already claimed it. All right, good on him. Yes. Well, yeah, it was a big hit, and I think we've had 2 cars just quickly, because Brown's car has been officially written off.
Yeah, I heard that.
And so these Gen 3 cars are a little soft, I think. They're really hard to maintain at a level. They seem to be basically broken. Anytime any accidents happen, they can't be straightened properly. They're not quite right. It's expensive. It hasn't been good.
It hasn't. It's been an expensive year for many teams. And I don't know why they're weaker. I mean, we went from a Gen 2 chassis, and as far as I understand, that chassis is not all that different, like at the core of it.
No.
But we didn't get this type of trouble from Gen 2. Like, they'd hit and go on. So I just don't understand why suddenly the chassis are bending and braking and...
Yeah, because they made those clips as what they refer to them. So the main chassis was the core part, and the fronts were meant to be easily replaceable. So the front chassis rails, the rear chassis rails were all easily removed and replaced. But the complication is that it's turning out the whole cars are softer, and they're just being damaged.
Being damaged. It'd be funny to see, like, the actual data on why, but
you'll never see that from Supercars.
No, definitely not. We don't see data, so that is a cause for concern, but they might actually rectify that over the off-season potentially. Maybe not. Who knows?
Yes. Well, let's get on to some better news anyway. And obviously we mentioned before about Ford winning the last 4 races to conclude the 23 season. So we're happier.
Yeah, definitely.
One thing I should disclose, is I've been a long time avid Supercars watcher, but I hadn't watched a round since I switched off at the end of round 2, and I didn't watch it until basically I've seen the last 2.5 rounds, right? So when they fixed the parity stuff. So I kept abroad of all the news and information. I was still listening to the podcast. I still, wanted to see what was happening for the parity, but it just shows I went from 0 to now back in the game of watching all of it because I know that the 4 teams had a chance. So it was great to see, and even the likes of having Randall, like what a stellar weekend he had. So
amazing.
Yeah,
like I know he didn't get a win or anything like that, but just in terms of his own confidence of being up the front consistently and racing up the front consistently, I thought was.
Yeah, it was really good. So it was great to see, although we don't officially know. I think he's the, Waters and Randall will be the drivers for the cars for Tickford. And so, it was great to see him sort of get that confidence and deliver it home.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, we're now going to go to, I'm going to throw it open. We're really struggling. We thought, do we call it fair or biased? We're trying to find different words like one-eyed,
and this might change.
Just. So maybe you, if anyone, the 4 watchers that we have, one of you guys, if you've got a better way, but the segment we want to run is it fair or are we biased? And we're going to run through some of the highlights and lowlights of the weekend and give our takes on whether we think it's fair or biased.
Well, I will ask the first question, Emma, and then maybe you follow up to me the next one. So let's go with the very first one for fair or biased. 888 ran over a black cat on the way to Adelaide.
Absolutely fair. The results show it's not us being biased on that one. Well, I'll talk for me. So I think absolutely fair. Something went horribly wrong. Shane, the unsighted crash that he just Waters was in front of him, he managed to pop out and it was just like, oh my god, there's a car, and just the way it ripped off the wheels and everything. Oh my goodness. So
it's all done and dusted.
So that was pretty bad. So I think fair.
Okay, I'd go with fair as well.
Okay. Right, so this one's a little stronger. So Shane, SVG, the karma train has come home, and you've written here, I will say you've written, just because, via express to derail the little hope he had of securing another championship. I'll let you answer this one.
Look, I wrote this obviously to incite a little bit of drama. But look, it's probably a little biased, that call, Damo. So that was a little bit rough, mate. You should have been a little bit nicer than that. Was me.
No. We had spoken about it, but it sort of felt like, it was in terms of being biased, the karma train came home for all the bumps and knocks and things that happened, that finally something fell against him rather than for him. So definitely biased, but I think the derailing, it really happened fast, didn't it?
It did.
So I think it was like a minute into the first race.
I don't think it was a minute.
Done.
I think it might have been 30 or 40 seconds. It was literally as. Oh no, I won't go there. It was so quick. It was literally start the race, get to turn 4, come out of turn 4, bang, and it was done. And look, I'm not going to lie, I was smiling. Only because I wanted Brodie to win.
I think the message that I got from you was ha 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 ha.
Yes,
I might have been a bit short on the ha's, but we were both loving it. Because it was great for Brodie. I definitely think he was the deserved champion this year. So
and it just took. I suppose it took the championship challenge completely out of it, and I don't know. It just sort of felt to me that was at least it was good. It was done, and everyone could go racing and just enjoy the rest of the year.
All right, well, for the next one then, what do you think? Anton.
So Anton's move on Will Brown was unsporting and deserved a penalty, Damo.
I think that's biased. I don't think he needs to have a penalty. It was definitely, it was on the line of being a little bit unsporting, but when you watch, like, the car was jumping around a bit because they were trying to change direction.
Cold tyres.
He definitely didn't do everything in his power, but I guess, you know, that's your part. It's part of the racing craft, right? You want to limit your opponent's ability, so you want to try and get ahead. And I think he was okay, but yeah, it could have been like it just would have taken his car just to skid a little bit more, like on the cold tyres, or for him to not try and make the change of direction. And it would be pretty fair to say that he would have copped a penalty.
Yeah, look, I do tend to agree. I think this one's a bit biased, and the reason I brought it up is because in commentary and so forth, there was a discussion of whether it was or wasn't fair. And when they interviewed Will Brown, Will said that Anton's not that type of bloke, so he definitely didn't have any issues with it. So it's just an unfortunate event, and I think it was just a bit of cold tyres, a bit more understeer than necessarily needed to, and unfortunately Brown was, he was on the outside, so that just happens.
And a quick side note on that, the V8 Sleuth had a podcast with the DSO, Craig Baird, and he mentioned the commentary team were not helping the situation. He was talking about Gold Coast, where they were trying to ramp up and talk about what is fair and what deserves a penalty, and he said the commentary team don't help in that sense. So I thought that was interesting, just a little side note.
Isn't it?
That is biased.
100% biased there.
Yeah.
But look, I'm not going to disagree, because I think it's time that the commentary team take a backward step on trying to determine an outcome. Just call the race, for fuck's sake.
Okay, so Matt Payne's win on Sunday, you made the call earlier.
I did.
It was so dominant that it was Ambrose-esque.
Yes. I agree 100. It's not biased. It is a truthful call, Damo. It is 100% what it was like, and I look forward to watching many more next year.
Being the middle child, maybe I'll sit on the fence. I can see how that's a little biased, but it was a dominant, so let me jump on board. Let's just go. It was fair. Absolutely dominated. Love your work, Matty.
Yeah, no, it was awesome, Matt. So congrats again on your first race win. Feeney dodged a bullet while Mostert copped it fair in the chest for his 5-second penalty, Damo.
Right, we don't swear often, but I'm fucking angry about this. As I mentioned, I did listen to the DSO podcast that they ran, and his take was, from the data, he claimed Feeney never hit Mostert that first corner.
Bullshit. Cool.
Now, when you watch the footage, which is the rear cam from Chaz's car, you can see there's a bump. When you listen, and I'm going to call it out as I see it, when you listen, you can actually hear the bit of wheel spin that happens after the contact. So I don't know what data Beardo's looking at, but fair dinkum, that was bullshit. And I really call on them, please, release what data you've seen that shows that there was no contact, because thousands of us who watched that all recognise that there was contact made by Feeney. Now, Chaz's was a lot more blatant, no doubt about it, right?
Sure.
But it was a return of serve. The overtake that Feeney made should not have happened, because he bumped him and pushed him offline. And so therefore it was just a reversal. Everyone's happy days. Super pissed off about the penalty. And it was just, I think Beardo is normally pretty good, right? He's normally pretty good. He just has these moments. And I just don't know what data he could be looking at that would show there was no contact, when everything else, the visuals and the sound, all show there was contact from Feeney.
Well, I can tell you now, I was on Twitter all weekend on the valve bounce, so if you're not on X, you know what it is.
Twitter, X, whatever.
So you can follow us at the valve bounce on there, but I was on there all weekend, and the blow up on that social media site was huge. I even took a snapshot and sent it to the boys of what was going on. Nobody was happy with that result. Everybody saw the tap that Feeney did, and except for, of course, Supercars.
The one that counted.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Sorry, we'll call Beardo. We probably
he's not Supercars. What is he? He's Motorsport Australia. I was about to say Camps, but that's just showing my age. Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, that one really pissed me off, but, anyway.
Tell, mate. I could not tell.
Yeah, I've definitely hit the... Larko's excessive championship discussion, debate, ham up. There was a bit of borderline ear abuse for you. And me. I made the call for you.
This might be biased, maybe, but it was fair ear abuse for me. I was over it after the second time they cut to him going, that's the G's in the championship and they're going to look out for this guy. Fuck off, man.
And then still running with the, if he places here, then that means he can win and this is all he has to do. And it's like, oh my God, mate, it was done and dusted. It's done and dusted.
The funniest thing about that whole thing was that so much of that was just dead in the water after 30 seconds of the race, and that probably made me happier than anything else. It's like, I don't have to listen to this tripe for the rest of the weekend, so that's good.
He just kept going. And it's a shame because Larko is normally the one that saves the broadcast in a lot of sense, but yeah, it was just a bit over the top.
I will say a shout out to Declan, who said that I was probably being a little bit over the top this week with that.
Really?
I did post the question on Facebook of whether it was over the top, and he did respond saying, look, yes, it's probably a little bit, but they have to talk up the championship. And look, I do agree with that. But
called out.
He definitely called out, but I do agree with what he's saying. They do need to do that, but I think there's hype and then there's just too much, and people get sick of listening to it. And especially, I feel like when it's around Triple Eight in particular, people are getting over the discussion of Triple Eight overall because they just keep banging on about them, no matter what. Whether back, front, middle, doesn't matter.
So confirmed, biased. Got it.
Got it. All right, well, Damo, for the next one. Tanda and Rihanna Korean are Supercars broadcast saviours over the weekend, mate.
100%. Tanda has been a breath of fresh air.
Yes.
And Rihanna has always been really good. I think the one call out is why the coverage team make her interview her husband. Now, she and Will both do a brilliant job of just being absolutely professional and just keeping it real, and it just shows you the class that she has. But why get her to do it? Get Garth to do it, for crying out loud. And Garth, even though he has been for a long time being the Holden guy, when he came into the commentary, we were very surprised. We had lots of conversations with our Holden mate Steve and you, Steve, and just talking about how good he was. So I think they're absolutely saviours.
Yeah.
I will say, just listened, one of the only times I've listened to the, what do they call it, the rev limiter auto...
Oh, you listened to the...
Yeah, auto action.
Yeah.
And they reckon that Tanda was no good. Reckons that he's on the nose, and I was really shocked. I'm like, well, how did you come to that conclusion? I think he was by far the best.
We've got clearly a large audience in 4 people.
Yes.
What do you guys think? Do you think Tanda and Rihanna were brilliant, or as auto action got it right?
Which brings to the next one, because this one, there's absolutely, I won't take any bias on this one. This is fact. It is absolutely done and dusted that Scaife and Crompton are more focused on stroking each other's egos. Egos.
Good. Yep.
Than actually making the actual spectacle enjoyable for everyone.
I think that's 100% truthful, don't we? Absolute facts. Feeney's move on Kostecki in the final turn was the move of the year.
Big call for move of the year.
It was a solid move.
It was very good. It was one of the best. We had some good passing and some good proper racing at the Gold Coast.
Yeah, we did.
But when I saw you pose the question, I was trying to remember back, and look, there haven't been many great races.
No.
I think taking the real unbiased lens off, if we look at some of the Camaro racing earlier in the year, I think Brodie and Shane, was it at Perth?
Yeah, Perth.
Where that was a really good one.
Yep.
And this one would be on par or close to that, if not, I mean, you probably feel like it was the best, but yeah, I think there's only been a couple of really good moves that have sort of happened.
Yeah, look, and that's the only other one that came to mind for me was that Brodie Shane, battle. I just felt the fact that they had a car going into the pit lane and Brodie on the outside of it, it was balls deep.
Yeah, it was.
And he got through and they didn't touch.
Absolutely fair. Even if there was a little rub, like it was still such a great move.
Minor. Yeah. So well done, Feeney. I know we're not the biggest Triple Eight fans or anything like that, but credit where credit's due, that was a good move.
Yeah, it was.
Good move.
It was. All right, let's talk about David Reynolds.
Oh, yeah.
He's moved to Team 18.
Yeah.
And I've got some extra additional stuff which I'll add on after I hear your thoughts. But his move is going to be career-ending. What's your take?
Well, it's definitely not biased. I'm pretty sure that's that's pretty accurate. Sorry, Davey. Loved you at the Penrite team. Really think you should have stayed on regardless of what the contract offer was. Because I think you are now in big trouble for the rest of your career.
Yeah, I think he'll just be in the wasteland because we're just not going to see Team 18 be anywhere near where Davey's probably skill level is, and so he's going to turn into, and it's a shame what's happened to Frosty, that they've had one probably really solid round where they had a win, and that's really been it for Team 18. So they haven't really handled the Gen 3 stuff as well as they probably should have. So I'll put this to you.
Yep.
Erebus would not have won without Davey leaving.
Ooh, that's a big call, Damo.
So here's my theory. They had all that COVID year. They had so many dramas. David was not happy. Reynolds was very dissatisfied with the way they handled things. There was obviously a whole bunch of stuff happening, behind the scenes with the pandemic. Barry was probably at his worst version of Barry during that time.
Yeah, fair.
Dave leaves. There's some sort of adjustment that's happened. Barry's a much better level-headed person since that time. Done some self-reflecting. Maybe Betty had words with him, worked on himself, whatever. And I think that's the difference as to why they started to turn things around. Fresh start with new drivers, new attitude, better management of the team. That's why they won. That's my call.
All right, I agree and I disagree. I agree to an extent because what I'm about to say doesn't happen without Reynolds leaving as well. But I think Brodie has brought something to that team that they needed and were missing. And Will Brown is a very good driver, don't get me wrong, but Brodie is very smart. Not just in the car, but working on the car and understanding every aspect of what makes that thing tick.
Yep.
And I think that might have been the difference between where they are now and where they possibly would have been if Reynolds was.
Yeah, I agree. I think Brodie's definitely brought elements to that to shape the team in the success for sure. You're right, that's why I think Brown will go well at Triple Eight, where all of that stuff is kind of handled and managed and he can just get on with driving. But yeah, Brodie brings a lot more to it, but as you say, without the issues that they had, Dave Reynolds leaving and Brodie coming in, I don't think they ever would have won. So that's the big call out. I don't know whether it's biased or not, but I do love Reynolds. I do love him, but yeah, I just think in some regards that year and the way that was handled was not great. Yeah.
Yeah, no, look, I tend to agree with that statement. All right, Damon, so for the last one.
Yeah.
Gold Coast was a better event than Adelaide, despite Adelaide winning the event award at the gala.
So, are they... Maybe we're biased. Are they biased against Boost and Peter Adderton? Because from all reports, now look, I only know one person that actually went to that event this year, but what we saw from the outside and what was also said from internally from people going, it was an amazing event, and I am reasonably biased to the Adelaide event because we've been so many times and I really love it, and it was great to see this year after going the past couple of years, and it's just been an absolute they had no funding. They had the grounds were reduced. There was nothing happening around. It was a schmozzle to be honest, the way it felt. So it definitely looks like it's returned to form. But yeah, I don't know how something that's just come back and is still building versus an event that just looked like it was handled promotionally wise. Like the marketing was sensational. The racing was sensational. Everything was perfect for the Gold Coast, and I just don't know why that wouldn't have been the round of the year.
Yeah, look, I don't think you're biased. I think that's a fair call. So for me, definitely the racing was probably better at Gold Coast than it was at Adelaide. I love the outcome of Adelaide. But I don't know, I didn't.
Oh.
The outcome at Gold Coast was good as well.
It's still good.
But I felt that the actual racing itself between the brands as well, particularly at Gold Coast, was better. As for on the ground, I mean, Adelaide is, when I haven't been recently, but when I have been, has always been done and run very well. And it did have a big headline act with Robbie Williams on the final day, which maybe is the difference between getting across the line and not. I'm not sure how they actually score it, but I will say this, the Adelaide 500 went for too long.
Yeah. 4 days.
It's too much.
Too much, I agree. Yeah,
So,
and it was stretched out, in a bizarre way, which we touched on last episode, with having qualifying on one day and then top 10 on the next day, and I think you could condense that to 3 days, and it's a perfectly the event runs perfectly well.
Perfectly well. Yep.
Yeah, agree with that.
Absolutely agree. Moving on to Larko's Luck Award.
Larko's Luck Award. Who is the winner? We heard I mentioned Cameron Hill probably is the runner-up.
Look, Cam did his best.
Yeah,
he really did do his best. But
winner?
he can't beat this fella, because this fella came in as a championship contender and absolutely had everything go against him. He ran over a black cat. I don't know, whatever you did, Shane, don't do it again, because that won't work for you in NASCAR. But Shane Van Gisbergen, congratulations, you've won something in the very last event of the year, and that is Larko's Luck Award.
Yeah. So, you just couldn't, I guess as we talked earlier, that crash that happened so early on, and then spending Sunday with some wheel, it felt like a loose wheel. We don't really have any clarity. The teams the Triple Eight team have been very suspect about what it might be.
Yeah.
I mean, it sort of feels somewhere in the camp of Shane just gave up and just gave no more fucks. Or there was actually something that was going on that they don't want to tell us. So, it has to be one of those two, I think.
I think it's the latter. Look, I know Shane does appear on, at least on the media side, he doesn't give a fuck anymore. But I feel like he's a racer. When he's in the car, he's a flat out racer. He loves the competition.
Yep.
So I don't think it was that at all. I think it was just there's something wrong with the cars that they still haven't figured out or rectified, and I think he's a little hypersensitive to whatever that is.
Yeah.
And that if you're not confident in the car, you're turning into a corner like turn 8 at 200k an hour, and it feels like a wheel is loose, I don't blame him.
Yeah, it's a fair call.
So.
And I guess maybe you might see this as luck on his side, or maybe the Larko luck for the real fans of SVG. How little coverage of Shane in his last round there was. They had a great piece which they put together of all the other drivers talking about Shane.
Yep.
And then I was waiting for the big, kind of fanfare, and there was none.
No, so from all reports that I have heard is after the whole Townsville thing and so much media bash up and everything else, Shane said no more. So whether that's true or not, I don't... Sorry, I just covered that. I don't actually know. But I think it's a high chance because I can't imagine Supercars saying we're not going to interview you in your final race and so forth. So.
Yeah, it definitely feels like that he must have had some input on that because we know what Supercars are like. They don't need a second chance to have all the interviews and footage and keep talking about him. But yeah, he definitely didn't. But it was still great to see or to hear that in the actual with the fans, he was really good.
Yeah.
Saying goodbye, signing stuff, being really engaging on that front. But yeah, the media stuff was just there was nothing. So yeah, that was very interesting.
And just a quick note, Shane, if you go over to the US and you engage with them far more, the media here is going to be really pissed. So go do that because that'll be fun.
Yeah, well, we saw that with Ambrose.
Yeah,
he didn't like engaging with the media here, and when he went to the US, he was fine. He loved it.
It's almost like there's something wrong with the Supercars media.
Yeah, imagine
that.
Fair or biased?
Biased.
All right. Qualifying our predictions.
You're going to have to bear with us with this one.
This is going to be a nightmare. It was a nightmare to coordinate last time. It's a nightmare to talk through the results.
It is.
The short version is that I had some really good stuff. You had some really good stuff. But overall, barely a pass mark. That's my summary.
Yeah, well, obviously, as we know, we can't predict anything and we're washed, as they say. Mind you, to give you credit, you said Brody Kostecki for race 27 at the end of the top 10 would be on pole.
Yep.
And he did. So congratulations, Damo.
I'll take that one.
Well done. I said Cam Waters, and stuff you, Cam. You screwed me. You had no pace in qualifying, which is very unlike you.
Yeah.
But that's the way it is. Now, Reynolds obviously lined up second. Neither of us got that. I said Brody, you said Chaz.
Yep.
And Randall third. I said Reynolds, you said Waters. D. Pasquale was fourth, and that was... I said Payne, you said Shane. Funny how that actually works for the weekend. And Brown was the one who was in fifth, and again I said Shane and you said Reynolds. So
yeah,
we really messed that up.
So some of us got some of those in different orders, but I think overall you had the most correct. I think none of us picked Randall to have a stellar weekend.
No.
And then having D-Pass, who just popped his head up for one little session and then disappeared for the rest of the weekend. That was quite surprising.
Yeah.
What about the actual race predictions? So, but we know that Waters. The order was Waters, Reynolds, Randall, Mostert, and Feeney.
I predicted Waters.
There's no other way than saying that I totally balls this one up. So let's go to you because you had Cam Waters.
Tick, yeah.
You had Brody, who wasn't there, of course.
No, Reynolds came in second on that one.
Then you had Feeney, so you had third, but he came in fifth, so it's not bad.
Not too bad.
Reynolds, so slight mismatch, second and fourth. And then Chaz, who was fourth and fifth. So I think I had Brody. Waters is second, so
it's
close.
Not bad.
SVG. Yeah, that one got ruined. And then I had Chaz on the money, fourth.
That's two.
I predicted fourth, and then that was it. I had Matt Payne.
So keep it count 2-1 in Damo favour for actual prediction there.
Oh my god. Now I think it gets better for me and then worse for me. I don't know. It's pretty shocking.
We're going to find out. All right, so let's go to qualifying for race 28.
Race 28.
Again, this is at the end of the top 10 and the top 5 of that. So we had actual results. Kostecki, Payne, Waters, Mostert and Feeney.
Wow.
And we predicted right for this one, Damo. Nice. 3-2. The other way around. 3-2.
And then
I
think there might be a sharp decline on how we actually track on the results on some of these.
Yeah, so we both said Shane would chase him home, and well, that was wrong because that was Payne who got second, and that was just quickly the lap of both Brody and Matt were some of the most committed laps I've seen this year. They were well on it, and I was really, really impressed. I was very impressed with Brody at the time because he went like 6 or 7 tenths.
Tenths faster.
And then Matt Payne being so close.
So close.
Cracking effort on both those guys. And third was, lining up third was Waters, and, well...
I had Chaz. So...
He's offside.
I had Chaz and Waters. I just had them the wrong way round. And you had...
I had Waters the next run down, but I had Davey Reynolds.
No, definitely not. Didn't get that one.
Thanks for the curb strike, mate.
God, that was a disaster. Curb strike straight away.
Straight away.
So
all over.
Soul crushing.
Absolutely sent it and lost it.
Yeah.
All in one hit. And then we had Mostert in the 4th position, which we both predicted Cam Waters would be.
Yeah.
So that wasn't good. And Feeney was... I got it right.
You got it right on the money.
Right.
I had pain, but nothing but pain on my predictions.
It's too quick for you. Yes, all right, so...
Race 28. So the results that we had were obviously Payne, Feeney, Reynolds, Waters and Mostert.
Yep.
And we had Brody. He was just like, he didn't really have the pace, but they didn't care anyway because it was all done and dusted.
That's it.
SVG I had. You had Chaz.
I had Chaz. I was hoping for a bit of Chaz,
Bit of Chaz love.
But
thought he might be up there, but no.
It wasn't anywhere.
I had Chaz in 3rd.
Yeah.
And you had SVG. And so both of us failed on the SVG, the Shane Van Gisbergen one.
Definitely.
Then we both got Waters in 4th. Oh, we'll take that.
Absolutely.
And then 5th, where Mostert came, I had Reynolds.
And
you had
Matt Payne, who was the victor.
At least you had him in your list. I did not. So it's a fair call. You had him at least in the list. I had him on the Saturday.
Well, I think, look, to be fair, I thought Matt was going to have a good weekend. I just didn't predict him to have a stellar weekend.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that in these predictions, Supercars, especially in the last 4 rounds where it was a little bit more even, was a little bit more unpredictable.
Very much so, because we didn't really know how the cars with the adjustments were going to make, and so that's our excuse, and we'll be so on the money next year until we find another excuse in our little book to go, no,
that's why that didn't happen. Yeah, perfect. Driver excuse book, but in podcast form.
Yeah. And so I guess with that kind of wraps up the year. And for us, we're going to continue on the videos. We're going to look at, maybe some year reviews. We're going to look at what we think needs to happen in the future for some of the parody stuff that's happening overseas.
Yeah, and probably some 2024 predictions.
As we get a little closer into the new year.
Yeah.
We've got a whole bunch of other stuff. We've obviously got F1, we'll be doing the same.
Yep.
And then we're going to look to doing some other fun activities that we can hopefully do some car shows and other things that are out and about in the summer months here in Australia.
Definitely.
So we'll mix up the content and hopefully you enjoy it. So
absolutely.
Give us a like and a subscribe, please. Tell your friends and family, share it with other people. That would be great as we continue on our path. We're getting better at this, and maybe you want to leave a comment.
You can judge and tell us how rubbish we are, or washed we are. But no, definitely. And remember, at the Valve Bounce across all social media platforms that we're involved in at the moment. Yeah. And I'll try my best to stick around on X as much as I can. So please send a message there. Send a message. You can DM us on Facebook or on Instagram, and we'll try and bring you as much content and as useful content as we can. And
we should say thanks to some of the early adopters who are posting and making comments and keeping us honest on certain things.
Jeff and Declan.
Well done, boys. Thank you.
The only 2 that watch us.
Yeah. Maybe the only 2, but we can do some interactions with the APRA boys at some point. I think at the track maybe. Yeah,
I think we'll try and do a little bit of that as well, and get Declan on the show because he's got some stories as well. That guy.
Yeah, awesome. All right,
guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.